I needed to ask you about two people back in your USC days. Of course, Reggie Bush, you brought him up, and Pete Carroll as well. Do you have a story about either one that you'd like to share, or maybe even like a Reggie Bush highlight that nobody saw in practice, or Pete Carroll's speech or something?
Well, no, well, Reggie. First of all, Reggie was. I mean, gosh, I mean, you could just YouTube his highlights. I mean, he was a human highlight film. But the like the first day of practice, because we remember, because what Pete used to do when the new recruits would come in, during training camp, he would play, or before they came in, he would play us all of the incoming freshman highlight films. Maybe edit
Okay.
them, but he would play. So we would all sit in the team meeting room and we play. And some of them were like, "Holy, this kid is good." Some of them we make fun of, whatever. It was just whatever, whoever was coming. It was just more fun. But I remember Reggie's came on, and we knew he was one of the best players. We're like, "Wow, this kid is special." And sometimes you just don't know. The high school to college is a big jump. College to the pros is a big jump. And I'll tell you what, no lie, like day one of training camp, and he wasn't even the starter. A lot of people don't even know this, that he was, because 2003 was my first year starting. It was his true freshman year. He was, I don't want to say third string, but we had Chauncey Washington, who's a running back, a big time running back. And we had Lendell White, obviously, who
Right.
you guys should know, who was a great, who he and Reggie ended up being Thunder and Lightning. And then there was Reggie. Chauncey was getting reps before both of them. Lendell was getting reps, and Reggie was kind of, and then we had Herschel Dennis, who had been there for a year prior, who was actually the starter, who was a good player. So Reggie kind of walked in, not really, trying to find a role for him because he was so special, but he wasn't the guy right away, not even in that class. And obviously we knew at some point he was going to be, but it was interesting. But what he did from day one, we were like, wow, like this kid is going to be special. And the one thing I always say about Reggie was he was always the hardest worker on our team by far. He was the best player on our team by far, especially in his sophomore and junior year. But he worked harder than anybody on our football teams, and we worked hard. We were disciplined, is one of the reasons why we were obviously a great football team for a handful of years. But Reggie was the best player, but he was the hardest worker. And um, just for people to kind of know that, like he really worked at his craft and really did. And then we're for Pete. Oh my goodness, and there's so many. I'll say this: what you see is what you get with Pete. He's been like that. Yeah, I think he's in his early 70s now or late 60s, and he still has more energy than I played with coaches who were like addicted to Diet Coke, because those days are long in football and you have about 10 cups of coffee a day or six Diet Cokes or whatever it is. Pete was a Mountain Dew guy. And I don't know if he still drinks Mountain Dew, but he drank probably 12 Mountain Dews a day. And then everyone's like, well, I'm not lying. Like 6 in the morning, he didn't drink
That's
coffee and he didn't
crazy.
drink Coke. Yeah. I was like, Coach, I mean, that's a little too much sugar for you, man. But he was, and that's not why he was always on a high. He just has that natural personality. But I'll tell you what, he would have a Mountain Dew. My goodness, like every hour on the hour during the football season. Um,
That's
geez, it,
amazing.
yeah, it was. I was like, Coach, that can't be good for your health. And
Maybe that's
it,
why he went to the Seattle Seahawks, because it's a good color scheme for him.
yeah, there you go, there you go. I'd be curious if he still drinks it. I would be willing to bet he still drinks Mountain Dew. But Pete, oh my goodness, like he just had. I'll tell you a funny story. So I don't remember the year. It might have been early on, but he was so like he's just so energetic, and it was every day of practice, and he had a great balance of it being hard on us and disciplining us and really expecting us to be great and to be prepared, but also creating that fun environment where we're laughing, we're having fun. And I just think that's why we worked so well in those years, because man, like we wanted to come play for him every day in practice, and he made it so much fun, but he demanded a lot. The thing about Pete was he was so one of the most competitive people I've ever been around, and that's why he's been able to have so much success. One day we're in walkthroughs, and he's doing the service. I think the service team, or we're on offense, and we're doing like walkthroughs against the service defense before really practice starts. And he's like, Matt, let me be quarterback. He was in quarterback, and this might have been like my junior senior year, so I'd played a ton of football, and he would take some reps. I swear, we were on the goal line. That's what it was. He takes the ball and just like, and like walkthrough is kind of like thud, and maybe it was a period where we repeated play. I don't remember. He takes the ball on a quarterback sneak and jumps over the offensive line like to get into the end zone on and I'm telling you, he did that type of stuff. I mean, hundreds of times in my 5 years
awesome.
at USC. Like he would throw 7-on-7 during like a real Wednesday practice. Like, hey Matt, let me get a rep real quick. Or if our service offense was going against our number one defense, he'd come in the huddle and throw. And he did that a lot in the summer and the spring too, when obviously we weren't prepping for games. But he had so much energy, man, and it was just it was infectious. It was so much fun. But gosh, there's so many stories like that where he just couldn't help himself. Like coaching wasn't enough. He had to be involved in the plays. He had to be in the huddle. He had to, at both sides of the footballs. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to play for him. And to be honest, I think he does a lot of that in Seattle as well. It's a different game. I mean, we know it's a business, and you're dealing with grown men making millions of dollars and all of those things. But his whole thing is creating that fun, energetic environment where it's a joy and a privilege to get to go to work every single day. It's not a drag. It's not like a grind. Like it's, and I imagine he's done that there as well as he can. Like he was a real special coach.
That's amazing. I love it.
He's the best.
Look, I just picture him now like the Incredible Hulk with like Mountain Dew charging through his veins, like diving over the O-line.
So last story, we used to play, we actually got in trouble because we weren't allowed to, but we used to play pickup basketball on campus. So it was the Lions Center. I believe it's actually still there. It was like the normal, I don't say the normal kids, but it was just the gym and the weight room on campus for the students. But we used to go there because they had like 3 basketball courts up on the second floor. I think there was another gym on campus that was kind of for faculty, and I think that's where we played. But I remember we used to play with them, and we weren't allowed to because it was extra time with their coaches at the time. So I think we had to. It was so dumb, but I remember I played against him, and I was a pretty good basketball player. But I'll tell you what, Pete Carroll, and he would tell you this, and anyone that's played against him, he is your typical like kind of like old guy basketball player. He will foul the hell out of you. I'm not kidding you. He will foul the hell out of you every chance he gets, because he's got to make up for it. He's a little older, and this was like probably in his 50s at the time, right, or late 50s. And he's one of the players that will call foul on you, but will never call foul on him when he hacks the crap out of you. And he will hack you I swear, I remember, and I had a relationship with him. I was like, and I would, use some expletives, and obviously I'm playing, but I'd be like, what the hell, coach? That's and he's like, oh, Matty, you're tough, whatever. And I was just like, and we hated playing with him because he wasn't fun, because he would hack you, and he was actually a pretty good basketball player. Like he could play. So, but he was, I'll tell you what, the most competitive dude in anything he did. He wanted to win, and he would go at all costs. And I always remember, I used to laugh. I'm like, he, had bruises on your sides from just elbowing you in the post and stuff like that. And you could ask any coach, coaches, that Lane Kiffin, all those Sarkisian, our staff. They'd tell you the same thing. He was funny to play basketball with.
Matt, I now have like a coach crush on Pete Carroll.
I think a lot of people did. A lot of people do.
Look, and I now have this like vision of what would happen if Pete Carroll was at our girls' camp and he was like stiff arming like the little child.
Well, he might have to tone it down a little bit, but he would. I'll tell you what, he is always like, I think he always like juiced up. He's always juiced up. He's always energy, and I'll tell you what, it was just like, I'll tell you what, you weren't going to be tired around him. You weren't going to have a bad day around him, because he brought that out of you. And that's, and to me, that was kind of one of his secret sauces. Like he was so alive in football. And again, I watch him on the sidelines now, even as he's getting older. And it's the same way, he is so like jazzed about being there, which, you don't get that in a lot of coaches. You get a lot of different type of coaches, and Bill Belichick, one of the greatest to do it, is completely opposite. But Pete, just for me, it was just a blast to be a part of that, play for him.
So do you think if we got enough Mountain Dew, we could get him to do a girls' camp with us? Because now I have this whole plot in my head.
By the way, I guarantee we could do a girls' camp with them easily. We could do a girls' camp. Well, that'll be our next mission for sure.
That's our next mission. Right. I'm so in for that because I'm dying of all these visuals. I am like now so thrilled with Coach Pete Carroll. I cannot even handle it. So we have big goals now, Matt.
Hey, and we're not stopping there. We're taking over, Jen. All right.
Absolutely. I'm down for the takeover, but I must see this, and I will pick up a case of Mountain Dew myself if that's what we have to do.
I'm in.